Hello there, you're watching Addis Dialogue and this is Ahaklilu. Ethiopia is set to launch its very first satellite to space, and that will make Ethiopia the first East African nation in history. As exciting as it is, few ask us if space is still a priority in Ethiopia. To talk about this and other related issues, Dr. Engineer Getahun Mekuria, Ministry of Information and Technology. Thank you so much for your time. Do stay with us. Let's start with your personal feeling. You're not only taking part in this historical event, but also you're leading a team. How does it feel to be part and leader in this critical moment?
Thank you very much. It requires to be very lucky to be in this place in the Ethiopian history. And probably I feel myself to be one of the luckiest person to have been one of those people heavily engaged in the Ethiopian first ever remote sensing satellite that is soon to be put in space.
You know, Ethiopia is still struggling with its economic performance, and we have this vision to join the middle income countries in few years, probably 5 or 6 years. So is it really space a priority at this time?
Yes, I do believe that space is one of the highest priorities that any government has to do, including ours. And if you see some countries, Asian countries like China, South Korea, India, and other countries, not to mention the big economies as well. So they started the space industry when their GDP per capita is in the range of between 200 and 300 USD. Ours, as we speak today, is close to 900 USD, and it was 28-30 years back that Ethiopian GDP per capita was in the range of 200, between 200 and 300. So it's like the chicken and egg history. So space technology and the usage of space applications help to develop other sectors, including agricultural sector, construction sector, mining sector. And once those sectors, economical sectors grow, again, space in turn grows faster. So to the best of my belief, probably why our agriculture and why our mining sector or our construction sector or other related sectors have not grown as required is probably for the very fact that we don't yet have this space technology. Had we had space technology and space applications already for the last 20-25 years, probably our agricultural sector, mining sector, and other sectors could have even grown much higher. So the very fact that we always think of space as an advanced technology is a very wrong impression. Space is not meant for advanced technology, even if it has its own advanced technology part. But space is a foundation for the growth of agricultural sector, mining sector, construction sector, and other sectors like monitoring and surveillance of big assets, national assets, boundaries, national boundaries, and anything that goes with it. So it's this impression that should be corrected, that space is not only for very advanced one, but rather space is a foundation that enables agricultural sector, mining sector, and other related sectors to grow faster even.
I think this kind of critique comes from the performance of the other African countries who managed to do this space satellite, the few African countries actually. So the resource implemented in that sector and the necessity of other sectors has, I think, triggered this kind of question. If you look to some countries, the budget allocated to this sector is huge, and that's considered as luxurious. Do you feel you're leading a team with luxurious project and budget of the country?
No, what I personally believe is that space is not a low cost investment. It's of course a very expensive investment. but expensive doesn't mean necessarily luxurious. So expensive means if it has to be done, then it has to be done in parallel with the benefits and applications and the advantage we have in the space industry. So for me, even if it's expensive and even if it may cost us a bit bigger, then it is a foundation for the economic growth of other sectors as well. So not using space is not a wise act for me or a wise strategy. So even if it's expensive, then it's worth using space technology to if a country is very serious in using technology to advance, to grow in terms of economy and social activity. So I would understand why this point is raised somehow, but for me, an expensive does not mean it's luxurious. It's rather a necessity sometimes. So if you have a very critical part of your organ like our heart and so on, so treating your heart is not a luxurious. It may be very expensive, it may be huge in terms of investment, but that type of things, that type of service demand investment of bigger size as well.
Let me take you back to the journey. I know it's been in process for a long time. And who are the people who take credit in this journey? And what was the most challenging thing you have ever faced in the process?
Yeah, something I would love to mention is that Dr. Abiy, our current Prime Minister, is the one who signed for the implementation of this satellite, which we are now ready to launch into space. So when he was 2016, he was Minister of Science and Technology, and I happened, fortunate enough, I happened to be the State Minister then. So he was the one who signed with NDRC. NDRC stands for the Chinese National Development and Reform Commission. So this funding also comes from NDRC, from the Chinese government. So Dr. Abiy was the Minister of Science and Technology, and so the NDRC head was on visit in Ethiopia. So it was on that particular event that the signing of this satellite happened. So the biggest, credit has to go to our current Prime Minister and the former Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Abiy Ahmed. Then we also have to really appreciate the contribution of Dr. Solomon Balai, who is the Director General of Ethiopian Space Science and Technology Institute. And also we have trained 20 engineers in the institute, and they are now the ones trained to operate the satellite in space, control, maneuver, and also collect data from the satellite. So we have built a very strong team of engineers, 20 in number, and they also, I think, they are also very lucky, and also they deserve a very great appreciation from us, because they are going to be the first Ethiopian engineers involved in space operation and space maneuvering and space technology. So the Ethiopian Space Science and Technology Institute, the management and the technical personnel involved, I guess, deserve our appreciation and the credit. And if we go one step back, so there are some people like Mr. Tafarra Walwa, the former Deputy Prime Minister, and also he's the founder of Ethiopian Space Society. So that society, the Ethiopian Space Society, is actually the parent of the Ethiopian Space Science and Technology Institute. So many activities took place 10, 12 years back when Mr. Tafarra Walwa initiated Ethiopia's engagement in observatory, in the space industry and so on. I think these people deserve my personal appreciation.
Okay, let's talk about the satellite launching. We know it's going to be launched in China. Of course, we have our own control system in here. But I have heard you saying this space science technology is envisioning the coming generations to come. So if we do have such kind of vision, why are you not waiting to have your own launching in here instead of going to China?
Yeah. So in terms of the space industry, launching service is not really that important. the most important part is the satellite itself. So launching service in the world, there are few countries that have that capability and that service. So different countries, many countries of course, can do their own assembly, testing and integration of satellite, and they hand over satellite for launching to other countries. So the biggest countries bringing satellite into space, especially into the geostationary space, that's around 38,000 kilometers, are big countries like Russia, US, European Union, China, India, and so on. So there are again other countries who have the capability of launching satellite into what we call low Earth orbit or middle Earth orbit at an altitude very close to the Earth. And we still have some countries, including Brazil and some Asian countries that have, including Israel and so on, that have capability to bring satellite to the LEO and the MEO levels. Now, so launching of satellite, bringing satellite from ground state, from the Earth into the space is a service that few countries do provide, and many countries cannot do that one because one thing, it's very expensive. Two, if the service is already available somewhere, then that's all required to bring a satellite. So in our current immediate strategy, Ethiopia's getting into the launching service with the rocket and services, launching services of satellite into space is not in our immediate strategy or in immediate planning for the very reason I said. So, but in our immediate planning, immediate strategy, we have this ambition of creating a satellite assembly, integration and testing chamber, whereby we may be able to design, manufacture and assemble and test satellites in the range of 300 to 500 kilograms as well. So that's where we are normally focusing. So the next generation of Ethiopia's space engagement would be one in having our own communication and broadcast satellite, not assembled or manufactured by us, because the size is in the range of 3,000, 2,000 kilograms. That's very big, huge satellite. So we still rely on our international partners for the design, assembly, testing, and launching of that communication satellite. So this is our immediate priority as number one. Number two, we also planning to immediately have a chamber, a test facility, integration and manufacturing facility for satellites between 300 and 500 kilograms. Because Ethiopia and any country, we need more than even 10 remote sensing satellites in the range of 500 kilograms, 300 kilograms. So every remote sensing or Earth observation satellite we need, relying on our international partners for everything would be very unfair. So we want to create our own capacity, in-house capacity, in terms of design, in terms of manufacturing, test and assembly and integration. So for a satellite of the size up to 300 or 500 kilograms, I think that's where we need to build capacity, in-house capacity. And once we do that one, then we will be serving our country, and also we'll be serving other African countries as well, and also generate foreign currency and additional earnings as well.
Well, talking about partners, China is the most prominent partners in Ethiopia, and especially in this sector, China is also there. But there are also perceptions about China's partnership in Africa. The perception, they are well aligned with our development programs. But is there any other commitment on your side with this kind of partnership?
Something that has happened is that the Chinese government has a very good available funding for developing countries. And also this first satellite we are now soon to launch is majority of funding came from the Chinese government. So as their funding strategy for environment, for environmental monitoring, weather monitoring, and also supporting developing countries in their endeavors for development of their agriculture and other areas. So this has initiated the willingness of the Chinese government to fund, to finance, to provide funding for Ethiopia's ETRSS1, has initiated this collaboration between our government, my ministry, and the Chinese government in really continuing this collaboration. That's number one. Number two, honestly speaking, the Chinese space technology is becoming very strong. Like US, Russia, and European space technologies, the Chinese space technology is becoming one of the leading space technologies in the world. So we need, I think, this combined with already China's heavy engagement in supporting our development endeavors has created this very strong collaboration with China. But this doesn't mean that we are not considering other countries. So we are also working, we are also have some engagements with other countries in terms of possible engagements in space technology, like in the application areas, and also in having additional facilities like AIT I mentioned earlier, is the test chamber, the manufacturing chamber, is we are using European technologies as well. So we are not exclusively using one international partner, but also we are open to doing business with all, especially with those who are willing to support us, willing to support us financially and also in the human resource development.
Okay, can you tell us in a very layman terms the benefit out of this satellite we gain as a country, perhaps in the continent as well?
Yeah. Okay, ETRSS1, ET stands for Ethiopia, RSS stands for Remote Sensing Satellite, and 1 stands for, that is the first one. So ETRSS1 is a remote sensing satellite. Basically, remote sensing satellite means Earth observation satellite. So from space we put, we have a multispectral camera on it. That multispectral camera will take pictures at a resolution of around, I think, 11-12 meter resolution. So that helps us to take pictures and monitor our boundaries, our major assets like dams, railways, and road infrastructure. So once in every 4 days, we will have pictures, the whole of Ethiopia's pictures, and every 50 days we'll have a complete picture of the whole world. As this ETRSS satellite rotates around the globe, around the Earth, then it will take pictures, and if we need to take pictures of somewhere, then we are able to do that one. So the main purpose of the satellite is taking pictures or observing the Earth from the space. So whatever major assets we have and whatever areas we need to take pictures, then we do that one. This also helps our agricultural sector. So in terms of agriculture, so like the if we want to calculate the crop coverage in exact terms, how much percent of the Ethiopian land mass is covered with forest, covered with crops, covered with different areas, then we can make almost exact calculation for that one. The other thing, due to the very fact that we have multispectral camera on board, then it's also it will also give us an indication of some mineral resource we have in the soil. So it based on the multispectral vision we will get from the satellite, from the camera, then it is possible to estimate which areas we may have some mining potentials and so on and so on. So using ETRSS1, so we will we will have a perfect picture of our boundary and also beyond. Also, we can somehow see deeper into the soil and see what potentials of minerals resources we have, and also if we need to keep safe our boundaries and different areas, infrastructure and so on, then using the pictures that we get from the satellites, then we see what is happening on the ground, we can see what's happening at some of our borders and so on.
So what would be the impact for not only Ethiopians, for Africans at this time where Ethiopia is able to launch its very first satellite to space?
Yeah. Actually, we have some African countries who are already have gone far in terms of using of space technologies. Countries like Egypt, South Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Nigeria, and some other countries have even more than 2 satellites already in place. Some of them have remote sensing satellites, and some of them have also communication satellite as well. So now Ethiopia is following those countries that have already gone far, and I think this may be a very good encouragement for other countries to have their own satellites, their own remote sensing satellite or their own communication satellite. And I think what Ethiopia is now doing may be also a message out there to other African countries that doing satellite technology is possible. Having a satellite is possible, and always relying on renting of satellite transponders is a very expensive engagement. So I think this may signal or may send out a very good signal to other countries that having actual satellite, be it remote sensing or communication satellite, is within their own reach if they decide to do so.
Yeah, is there any collaboration you're planning to send the satellite to space?
Yes, we always cooperate with African countries. For example, beginning of this December 2-3, we had one big conference here in Addis, whereby all African countries with space technologies and space agencies came to Addis to deliberate on the future of Africa in terms of cooperation, collaboration in the space technology. And fortunately enough now, from this year, for the coming 2 years, Ethiopia leads the African space leadership cooperation and so on. So we lead now. We have taken that mandate from Nigeria, and now it's with us to lead and to cooperate and collaborate the initiatives here and there in many African countries. So collaboration, especially in the space technology, I don't think space technology can be successful without collaboration. So it's actually collaboration that makes space technology very strong technology. If we take European countries, all of them have the same space program. Because look, if we have one satellite, say one communication satellite over the Eastern African space, then that one satellite can serve the whole Eastern African countries, not only Ethiopia, but every country in the Eastern African and probably Central Africa countries as well. So if we take 7-8 countries within the same geographical location, all of them, it's not necessary that all of them have their own satellites. Because as long as they remain within the same footprint, satellite footprint, then one satellite can serve 5, 6, 7, 8 countries. So collaboration is very important, and collaboration minimizes the burden of investment cost for each country. So we look forward, especially in terms of having bigger remote sensing satellite and bigger communication satellite, then we look forward to cooperating and collaborating with other Eastern African and Central African countries that we have a common satellite in space that can serve us all.
Well, finally, if you have any message to all Ethiopians and Africans out there, you're free to convey any message.
Yeah. So in the Ethiopian space industry, Ethiopian space technology, and then for our future generation, 20th of December 2019 is going to be a very remarkable and milestone day, where Ethiopia will have its own first ever satellite, and whereby Ethiopia enters into the space industry, into the space technology. So for all Ethiopians watching this message, and for everyone in Eastern Africa and the whole Africa, my big message is 20th December is Ethiopia's Space Day, because that's 20th December is the day where we are going to launch our own space, our own satellite. So get tuned to your TV terminals, because the possibility of live streaming is being facilitated. So 20th December is going to be Ethiopia's Space Day, and join us in this big day.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Engineer Getahun Mekuria, for Ministry of Innovation and Technology, for your time. It's really a pleasure having you in our short talk show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, dear viewers, that wraps up what we have for you in this edition. Join us again next week, same time, for yet another edition. Thank you. Bye-bye.